5th, 2017. I'd like to call tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting to order. As always, we begin our meetings with Pledge Allegiance. So please join me in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is public forum. This is limited to 5 minutes per topic. Discussion or comments about town employees or agency members shall be avoided as not to violate individuals' rights. Is there anyone here this evening for public forum? All right, seeing none, why don't we move on to the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the Board of Selectmen minutes of July 11th, 2017 as presented.
Second.
Hearing a motion, here in second. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. All right, next up, it looks like we have a presentation this evening from the library trustees. Are we going to be utilizing technology first and foremost?
Yes, we will.
All right, well, I suppose we'll slide over and make adjustments.
All right. I'll just give you a moment to do that.
Come this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That'll warm up.
This awake, yeah. I'm just gonna brighten up as the bulb warms up.
Yeah.
All right. All right. There we go. Great. Perfect. Okay. So I think we're ready. Looks like everything's on the screens. So we wanted to give an update about our building program, and I wanted to give a little bit of a tiny background just for the benefit of our new selectmen. And
Before you get too forward, could you introduce yourselves?
sure. Lisa Kane, I am chair of the library trustees.
Betsy Perry-Rajat, the library director.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Everybody knows us. Anyway, so just a little bit of background. The planning and design program commenced in 2013 with a grant application, and the $50,000 grant was awarded from this the MBLC, and $25,000 was matched by a library trust and retained earnings. So I wanted to make clear that no town funds have been spent to date, other than, of course, Betsy's time, which we pay for. But progress on the building needs commenced in 2014 and continued from ideas and concepts in public brainstorming sessions to the design submitted in January 2017. And all of this work could not have been performed without the assistance of the Library Building Needs Committee, our consultant Mary Brainey, our owner's project manager CMS, our architect Johnson Roberts, and with Jim Smith and Jen Hager and John Kucher's help. And so we just wanted to take a moment and say we're grateful for all of those people's assistance. So, next one. So, the Provisional Grant Award, which has shifted a little bit. So, on July 13th, we received notification from the MBLC that we had received a provisional construction grant. 33 communities applied, 24 were waitlisted, and 9 communities received provisional grant awards. It's provisional because in order to receive the grant, there needs to be a municipal match. The average grant award is 45 to 50% of the eligible costs, with the remaining costs going to the municipality. And also, because the library plans to attain the U.S. LEED certification, it is also eligible for an additional Green Library incentive of $174,285. So some quick facts about what we're trying to achieve here. The new Sutton Public Library is 17,140 square feet. And to take a moment about the size is driven by the contents and the contents are driven by a set of standards that the NBLC requires that we use, which is the Wisconsin standards. It sets how many seats, how many shelves, how many books, everything. So that's where the 17,000 square feet comes from. The location is 2.5 acres of Shaw Farm at the end of the lane, and it's sited away from any other proposed uses laid out in the Shaw Master Plan. So the estimated project costs are laid out here, with about 9.9 million of eligible costs from the NBLC. The grant is 5.1. The municipal match would be 4.7, and then there's furniture, fittings, and equipment. I wanted to make clear that these numbers are not the rosy scenario. These are $2020 with all the contingencies in there. So obviously, if we could start tomorrow, it would be less. And again, if everything goes well, it would be less. So I wanted to give you some library utilization statistics for the past year. So this past year, physical items that have gone across the desk of the library is 61,765 items. The value of those items is $1,042,000. We also hosted 214 children's programs, 47 teen programs, and 79 adult programs in the last year. And then I know Selectman Lemanik had asked, or now Chairman Lemanik, had asked if we could say exactly how many individuals use the library. And we looked at the data a lot of different ways. And it was really difficult because there's a lot of families who maybe have one person who checks everything out, like my family does. So what we decided to do was we pulled a report from CW Mars, and we looked at library cards with Sutton residences that checked out materials from the Sutton Library, and we went and eliminated all duplicate addresses. And by doing that, we could clarify that over 1,000 households in Sutton checked out an item in the Sutton Library in the past year. So that's about a third, right? And in addition, 100 new library cards were issued in the past year. So why now? Everyone's like, it's on top of the police station. So, I wanted to answer that question as best I could. So I looked at the town master plan. And the town master plan had indicated that the library should commence with the planning and design grant in 2013 and then follow the steps thereon. So, the need for improved facilities was identified as a key issue along with the police station and the DPW facility. It was also indicated that all three facilities should pursue grants, which we have successfully done. So the master plan also highlighted the need for additional community meeting space and recreational programs. And if you really look at the town, the library is the main source for non-sports recreation for all ages in the town. We provide educational lectures, concerts on the common, music and movement programs, STEAM programs, early literacy programs. And really, frankly, space is our greatest limitation in fulfilling this part of the library's mission. And finally, I wanted to say, this is the third, I thought it was the third, it might be only the second, but in pursuing either a planning grant or a construction grant, I might be counting the renovation we did downstairs as part of the third part. But to be clear, the grant rounds occur approximately every 10 years, and there are no guarantees of future grant rounds. So there's not a grant round sitting out there waiting for us to apply for. So how much is this going to cost? And based on the debt exclusion, we would anticipate about a $93 on average over the years for the 20-year span of the debt. And I didn't write down on this page what the top and the bottom would be.
It's like 123 and 63, I think.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Could you say that again?
I think it's 123 at the highest in the beginning and 63 at the end.
I think that's right. We also looked at our operating budget impact. The utilities for this building would be approximately $34,000 a year. And we arrived at the number a couple different ways, and we got to the same number both times. And we would also need part-time janitorial services to maintain the facility. An important thing, and it was integral to the design of the building, was that staffing levels would be maintained, and the material purchasing budget would also stay level so that the collection could grow naturally. Right now, every time we buy an item, something's got to go. we're constantly weeding out books. So we would just let the collection naturally grow. We would be able to go from about 32,000 items in the collection to over 60 eventually. So I wanted to look a little bit at the return on investment for the library. So I looked at the library operating budget and the number of households. And right now, running the library costs about $58 a household. If we were to increase the operating budget and fund the debt exclusion, it would be about $167 a household. So our circulation value, which doesn't include all the programming, is $1.04 million. It's about $320 per household of value that's coming into the town for a $167 investment. Can you go back?
Oh, sure.
So I wanted to highlight, though, the return on investment
There we go.
doesn't include all the programs we offer because it was hard to put a dollar value on all those. So I just have an example here, and again, I listed how many programs we offer. So Apple Tree Arts offers classes in Grafton. It's $20 per class. We offer this in 4-4-week sessions. It's free to our residents. So every time they take Apple Tree Arts here instead of in Grafton, that family saves $80 for a music and movement class for their young child. And we have so many opportunities that I think it would be, it's difficult to put a real number on it, but it's definitely there. And I won't read through all of this, but basically, it's to encourage people to think about it as an investment in the community in a way that they can actually pay themselves back by checking out books, checking out paperback books. If you really don't want to come in, you can download e-magazines or e-books. This one I love. I found out I could get college textbooks for my daughters, which is huge. And then also movies. If not everything is Amazon Prime or Netflix. If you want to see something, you can actually place a hold from your phone at this point, come in and pick it up during any time the library is open, and you're ready to go. Yep. Like I said, I didn't. So a capital campaign has been initiated to help fund the building project. Fundraising activities include donations, buy a brick, and options for sponsoring various areas of the library. So, we have from bricks, shelves, rooms, anything, it could be the Gillette Sutton Library, whatever. So more information can be found at the Capital Campaign website, which is newsuttonlibrary.org. We would encourage all of you to visit that website. And on that website, we have just added a new button, which is there's a video of all the patrons, a lot of patrons that have stepped up to the camera, which is not easy for library patrons to do, to talk about why the library is important to them. So here's our mission, which is the Sutton Free Public Library facilitates lifelong learning by connecting people to informational, cultural, recreational, and technological resources. It's often said that a library is a town's living room. It's a place to learn, to socialize, for ideas, and for discussion. Investment in libraries pays off in several important ways: educational support for people of all ages, resources to meet personal information needs that save time and money, safe and secure preservation of the rich history of our town in the local history room, and finally, opportunities for relaxation and inspiration through the programming and resources provided. The library serves all and is for all who seek to improve themselves, their families, and their community. Our summer reading theme this year is Build a Better World. This is our opportunity to build a better Sutton. And that is the end of my spiel. So now I'll take questions.
Why don't we just take a break and turn on the lights? Can I just ask you one quick question that might benefit everybody?
Yes.
For the general discussion?
Yeah.
I've been reading that you're targeting a $500,000 amount for
The capital campaign?
fundraising, the capital campaign. Can you tell us what you intend that $500,000 to be for?
To offset any of the municipal expenditure would be the initial, or if, for example, let's say at the time of town meeting, we don't have all of that, we will continue to fundraise as the project goes on to help offset the costs of the building.
Yeah, but it's nothing specific. We would just they would turn the money to the town, just to
Yeah.
pay off the debt.
To pay down the debt,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
So we will keep fundraising. Sometimes, it's a challenge to go to a business or a person and say, if this passes, will you, you give, but if they see it going, then they're a little more willing to chip in and know that their name is going to be on something and be there.
Thank you.
John, do you have any questions?
One that comes to mind, and it's regarding to electricity from Putnam Hill Road, coming up Shaw Road to the facility. I know at one time, many years ago, when Shaw Farm was in operation, during their milking periods and everything, there wasn't enough adequate power to come up the street. So if this goes through, who makes sure there's enough power? Is that National Grid? Does the town have to pay for something like that?
National Grid would have to,
Assess it and
review it and make sure there is enough power. But that, I'm assuming that's part of their process that they've already have the engineers look at. They might have to add some sort of transformer up the road to increase the power and so forth, but I would assume the engineers have already looked at that.
Yes.
So.
thank you.
Anything else, John?
No?
All right. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I should start with congratulations. I think this process has come a long way, and for you to get to the point where you have the approval from the state, I think is a culmination of a lot of work, a lot of hard work that's gone into getting us this far. So I think congratulations is in order.
Thank you.
Now, I could go a lot of ways with this, so I want to get some numbers questions out of the way, if I can do that. You had a municipal match of $4.78 million, and then furniture and fixtures on top of that of about 1.2, something like that?
Correct.
So it's about $6 million that the town needs to fund for this.
That would be for the, $20, so hopefully should be coming down from there.
And so the
And
numbers...
this doesn't include anything from the capital campaign.
Correct. So I guess we should concede anything that we talk about in terms of numbers could be reduced by some things. But, so the numbers that you provided to us in terms of the debt service cost, is that based on that full $6 million?
I think it's based more on 5.5?
5.
5.5 or 5?
I have to double check.
But I can work with, we would certainly make sure that whatever we put out before, in the warrant and before, so that everyone has exactly the right information, we would adjust that if
Okay.
needed.
And then, roughly speaking, in your presentation, you had something like triple the operating cost if you include debt service. So
Right.
going forward from where it is today.
Right, but that was operating expenses plus servicing the debt.
Service, right, yep.
Right, so,
And it's based on these same numbers that you gave us
right,
earlier.
that's correct.
Okay. That's fine, I just wanted to...
And of course, that will drop, that operating expense will go.
As
or
the
that-
debt service,
that-
as the debt
yeah.
service comes
I just
down.
wanted to give an idea of if this is the town's annual investment in the library between the operating budget
Yeah.
and the debt service,
Yeah,
that it would still balance out well if you look at what the services are that are provided to the town by the library.
yeah, I'd have to go back and look. So can you, I should know this, but I don't. You said roughly how much, if you exclude the debt service, roughly how much do you anticipate the operating costs to go up, say as a percentage of your current budget?
This year, our operating budget is $208,000, so it'd still be under $250,000
Okay.
a year with the utilities and the janitorial services that we would
Okay.
need.
So if I could, I'd like to get away from specific questions about numbers and just talk in general. As I mentioned, you have put a lot of work in over a long period of time. And in fact, through my time on the Finance Committee and now here, so almost through 15 years of sitting around this table, I've had plenty of librarians sit here and talk about the need for a new library. And I think you have continued that work, and I think made lots of presentations around town in support of the need for a new library. It's been a consistent message for a long period of time. Governor Baker, in the press release that you had, talked a lot about why this is an important project statewide. I would say personally, I don't see Governor Baker as a guy that likes to spend a lot of money necessarily, but he seems to be in support of libraries in general. And also, as you mentioned, the master plan has talked about the need for a library. So, again, I think this is a long process that has been sort of following a similar trajectory. And so I have really been supportive of what you're doing here. As you have been saying, there aren't necessarily regular opportunities for a grant like this. And I think the most important thing from my perspective is what you brought to us is an opportunity to build a building for approximately 50 cents on the dollar. I think that that's something that the voters of this town should have an opportunity to weigh in on. You don't get that chance that often. So that's my perspective. A little civics lesson, if you can permit me for just a moment. We, as a Board of Selectmen, are not a representative form of government, right? And this is an important thing that we're talking about here. In this case, this is a direct demonstration of what that means. The town gets to vote on this.
Absolutely. We
not
understand
us.
that.
We don't decide here. But the flip side of the coin is that the timing could be a lot better as it worked out, right? We have a brand-new school building with a pretty significant amount of debt service, and we just voted to build a police station on top of that. And so that's a challenge before you. I think that's, when I talk to people around town, that's what I hear is cost and whether this is the right time for that need. So, that's really all I have. I think I appreciate the work that you've done. I believe that the work that you have done is in support of what has been stated in the town's own documents for what the goals of the town long-term are. And it just worked out to be difficult timing. So, as you know, the work isn't done. So, good luck.
It's difficult because if we could have shifted it out 2 years, if that was an option, we would have, obviously. It would have made our case a little easier. But the shifts are 10.
Yep.
And so that's where we're kind of stuck. Sometimes I wish we could have pushed some of the other things earlier. That might have made our lives a little easier too. So,
these things were beyond your control.
Yeah, exactly.
That's,
so these
that's all there is to it.
These are the cards we're dealt.
Yeah, no, that's how it is. So if I can have one message, it's that I personally appreciate what you've done. I think, again, I think it is the mandate of the library, I think, to push for what you think is right. And as I said, with the master plan kind of calling for that same thing, then I think you guys have done excellent work to get it this far, and now it's up to the voters. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dave. Mike?
To echo a little bit on what Selectman Hall had mentioned, first and foremost, thank you, ladies, for all the work that you've put in. And it's to be one of 33 applicants and get the grant approved and all the behind-the-scenes and legwork that you ladies have done, the committees have done, the architect, Jim Smith, everybody that you mentioned at the beginning, to Mr. Kuchar and in between. It's a lot of work. I went through the website and looked at some of the different things on the site also, and
Great.
Even down to answering questions, trying to socially answer questions on Facebook and continuous questions one after another, and keeping
I started a Word document. I just copy and paste.
Copy and paste, yeah, because it's quick. But, you know, as Selectman Hall had also mentioned, it, you know, it's not up to us to make that decision. It's up to the voters. You know, so for the way I look at it, you know, I do have a couple questions, but first I just wanted to say that, you know, I do appreciate the work as a resident of the town that you ladies have put in. So thank you for that. When you talked about the $174,000 for the green grant, what's the chances of getting that? Is that like the high number, or is that something that?
The chances of getting that are very good. It was built into the design
Okay.
and the budget. So, and those were very achievable as we look through the point system. We're not going for like LEED silver, LEED gold, just basic LEED certification. So, very good.
Excellent. What's the time frame where it has to start, where you have to break ground before the grant is?
So we have to match the grant by January 12th. We have 6 months from when they awarded it. So that's why we would approach fall town meeting and then a special election after that, should we succeed at fall town meeting. And then we would be able to start as soon as the ground thaws, basically.
Yeah, well, we'd have to work, we need additional design development, you know, more engineering studies and things like that. It'd probably be, 18 months, 12 to 18 months before the shovels are in the ground, I think.
Right.
I ask that also because the fact of, you know, the cost being less, the sooner, and trying to get to a lower number is possible.
Yeah. I mean, I think we would, some of those cost escalations are included with the design development and the engineering and all those things. So the sooner we can begin, the sooner the better off we'll be.
On the last question that I have is on the plans. I noticed slide number 2 or 3 on yours. It showed like an overlay of an outside parking lot.
Yes. So we would not. There's 2 layers of parking. That was the second layer of parking, if you will, is to support any other development. So we're leaving space for that. We would not be building that.
Okay.
That is space for supporting the track and field project or a baseball field or any other project. We just wanted to make sure it's probably easier to add on to our parking lot than to build yet another parking lot, right? So I think we were just trying to be considerate of the other planned users of Shaw Farm for the town.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Rick?
I also thank you for all your work. I don't know a lot about what went into it, but it sounds like with everybody else thanking you, it sounds like you've been doing this for a while, and you're focused. You have a strong focus on it. A couple of questions. I too have been talking to folks in town, and to mimic what Selectman Hall said, there are people that are concerned about the school, the police station, and the library. That's a big burden to put on them. I'm concerned. We talked about the green, the 174,000, and the numbers. They're based on now. They're based on if we were to build this now. Is that
No,
what
they're
you're saying?
based on 2020.
2020. Okay.
Yeah.
So what if what are we looking at? I mean, if it's at 9 million thereabouts, and we're looking about 50% of that coming from the town, do we have any idea what the overrides could be? What the overruns could be?
What the overruns could
Well, what the increased costs would be? Escalations.
No, that's included.
the escalation's included in that number. So unless there's a giant piece of ledge somewhere that
Yeah.
prevents us from doing what we intend to do, which based on the borings that have been done so far, I don't think there's anything that's popped up. That is hopefully
All built in.
all built in.
All right,
Because
so
we have
the engineering-
contingencies in there for everything as well.
The engineering that you just spoke to Selectman Kenny about maybe the 18 months, about there was some maybe additional engineering that might have to occur if it's done during cold or whatever, all that's built in?
Yeah.
Yep.
What about staffing?
So maybe I,
When I say what about staffing, so how many, do you have enough? I looked at the size of this building compared to what you have now for a library.
so actually
One would
that's,
think that you're gonna have to
Agree.
add more people to the building.
I mean, maybe someday, but one of the great things about having the opportunity to design a library that's a single story, instead of trying to shoehorn it into something, is we could take sightlines into account. So we can open the library with 2 staff on, and they can see everything from the center. So it's almost like cathedral-like, because it's got this center area, and then there's staff areas that are kind of set off to the side, but all of the public areas are very open to the view. And so even though there are divided rooms, those rooms are partitioned with windows so that we can see what's going on. So we would actually anticipate keeping our staffing the same.
So if you had a special event and you brought in, did some sort of presentation, those 2 or 3 people that you have, you would be able to handle a crowd that big, plus run the library?
So, but yes, we could do that. And also, the other thing is, we've made it so that there is a night lobby. You can access the restroom, so somebody could reserve the community room and host their own presentations and things. Or, for example, if there was something really important that a lot of people wanted to come in to a selectmen meeting or a planning board meeting, could be held in that facility instead, where there's 100 seats, something like that. So yes, we would keep our staffing level, because we would just let the collection grow naturally. So it's not like we'd suddenly have 60,000 books to put away instead of 30,000 or whatever we have now. That sort of thing. We would let it grow naturally.
So you talked about items that were taken out and were on site in the current location. Based on the size and the items that you have in there, how much of the new facility would be used with the items you have here? And would you be buying more?
So we would not increase our materials budget. Right now, we have our materials budget, but every time we buy an item, we have to discard an item. We would be able to stop discarding. So we would just buy items and not have to discard.
Right.
What we call weeding.
And my last question is about brick and mortar type libraries, like you're proposing. And you mentioned, we talked about Amazon earlier and Netflix. There's a lot of resources out there on the internet, and we're seeing more and more where schools are using those resources. So why would we need such a large building when there are a lot of internet sources? And I'm speaking to, I'm talking to the millennial age, the 21 to 35 age, where this is some of the comments that have been brought to me, that's their concern.
Right. So I like to think of it this way. A Google search, let's say you're thirsty, all right? A Google search is like trying to get a drink of water from a fire hose. A librarian's job is to bring a person a drink of water that's appropriate for them, whether they need it in a sippy cup or they need it in a crystal goblet, right? Everyone gets what they needed. They get the knowledge they needed without getting too much. And that's the beauty of what librarians do, is Google doesn't look at its end user. Google has no idea who's searching for the Titanic. It could be my son, or it could be an engineer. But a librarian does. That's the difference. So.
And don't get me wrong, I'm right there with you.
Betsy wants to add to that.
I want libraries. I don't want those days to go past us.
Right.
I don't want to fall into some grid, into some internet world. I prefer to have that one-on-one customer service, that one-on-one where someone can ask you the old, looking for, get the card catalog that you went through.
Yeah.
That's gone.
We don't have that anymore.
Dewey Decimal System.
We have the Dewey Decimal System.
But it's gone. It's now a lookup. You probably have a screen and they're looking for the book and tell you the aisle, the shelf, and everything. I want to see that too. But we also have to keep up with the times. So I think that's my concern too with it is, are we keeping up with the times, or are we putting up a building and that's not going to get used as a library eventually? So
we are actually keeping up with the times. Because in addition to our paper and items resources, we do have accessibility for ebooks. I do a lot of ebooks because by the time I get books for everybody else, I don't have time to look for my books, so I get mine at home. But libraries are used differently now. It's not just the books. Right now downstairs, there's a smoothie class. It's a class on making healthy smoothies. Next week, I can't wait. I think it's next week is the canning class. Yes. So it's classes and community opportunities, book clubs.
I hear there's a photography one, too.
There's a photography one, yes. So writing workshops. So it's not just the books. It's also a place to meet. And that's why I said a library is a community's living room. It's a place where people can gather. And I know you mentioned the school, and the school is important for the families in town. The police department is important for our safety. I voted for the police department. This library is for everybody. And we've also done other things. We haven't mentioned yet we actually will be able to start a program for homebound delivery soon. We won a grant for that as well at the same time we won this one. So anyway, but Betsy wanted to answer the library question.
I'm sorry. I
Right,
stepped
that's
on it.
okay.
I'm just
We have a beautiful town and beautiful facilities, and everybody who lives here is wonderful. But there are a lot of people in town who can't afford tablets, don't have internet at home, don't have computers, and those are the people who have to come in, and their kids have to do homework for their beautiful school on our computers and print it out, and things like that. And people who can't afford to take their kids to a movie, and they come and watch a free movie here and have popcorn, and it's a great way to spend a day off of school. And you've done something, and you haven't, spent any money that you don't have. If you guys had to send a fax, where would you go? You come to the library. We're the only place you can send a fax for $1. We get people all the time. Other libraries in the area don't have fax services. They send them over here. There are certain jobs people have to submit their timesheets via fax. We're the only place you can do that.
Betsy's a notary.
I'm a notary. I'm a notary.
We proctor exams for all these people who are taking online classes. We will do proctor exams.
Yep.
So we provide a wide variety of services
Yeah. But we
that
tend to-
aren't the books.
people tend to forget about that segment of our population that can't afford these things. When Michelle's talking about the food pantry, and she says, it's not the seniors who are using the food pantry, it's the families. They're out there. We don't see them all the time, or we choose not to see them, and they're the ones that need this kind of facility and what we are offering.
I can't tell you how many times I've been in the meeting room where our 3 public computers are, and generally speaking, if someone is in there during the day on those computers, they're on Indeed, they're on Monster, their resume's open, they're looking for work. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. Because if you're out of work, the first thing you lose is like internet, cable. Those are things you don't need to live. And then you can come in here and take care of your job search needs. So I think there are people who use our library more than most people would think.
Thank you. Appreciate your responses. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Ladies, thank you very much. I'm going to echo my colleagues. Obviously, being involved in any type of project on such a scope is very time-consuming, and you both are effective advocates for the project, so thank you for all the time that you invested in thus far. But of course, I do have questions. And thank you for answering some of the questions that I had previously, or at least trying to. I appreciate that. Could you do me a favor? Could you tell me currently what is the square footage of the library?
2,100 square feet.
2,100? So the current space the new project is 8 times larger than the current facilities. Approximately what percentage of that will be to house the services that you currently provide? We're not talking additional services that you plan on, but currently provide. What percentage of this project? Because I know you're talking about the big meeting room. So separate the meeting spaces from what you actually need to operate.
I need it all.
To be honest,
Now, you
we
want
do-
it all.
No,
But what do you actually need?
Actually, to be honest, no, she's actually exactly right. We do need it all. And, I mean, the only thing I could think that we would ever be able to live without is, actually, we really need it all to be the space that the town needs. If we cut anything off, it won't meet the needs of the town for the length of time that we would want it to. So yes, it's a big jump in size.
Huge.
But right now, we cut off programs. Programs that we would be able to fill 3 times over, we can't fill because we don't have a space to put them. So it was like this afternoon, I actually was in the library today. I'm in the library all the time, but
You work there, right?
no, I don't work there. I
She doesn't get
do
paid for
this for
this.
free. I do this for free. Anyway, there was, it was Crafternoon, which, it was chaos. And my son was part of it, I'm sorry. Because they don't have a space that they can do these activities that's appropriate. And then, so there's a program going on in the back, there's a program going on in the hall, there's sometimes there's a book club going on over here. You can't compare them. Because unless I said, well, we use this community room this way, and then we used it this way, and then we used it this way, and that was all in one day. We bought all foldable furniture so that we could reconfigure that room 4 times a day if necessary, or more. So can I count that room 4 times?
Well,
know what I
if
mean?
they're concurrent, I suppose you could.
Well, we can
But if you
never offer
separate 'em-
anything concurrent.
Well,
We can
in
only
order to-
offer,
In order to operate 4 different programs at the same time, you'd have to increase staffing, no?
well,
Depends on the program.
it depends on the program, and also we bring in people to run those programs, and the programming we provide is usually covered by grants and things that we seek elsewhere.
Okay, in terms of the 100-seat public room,
Mm-hmm.
how often is space in the school not available? Or at the churches, or even this room? Because I know, just looking out in this audience, this room alone, I think there's about 50 chairs here. So if we open up the divider, there's your 100-plus
So
seats.
you've been on school committee, and you know about the concerns of opening a school and having it open and having the staff there. There are costs associated with that.
Actually, I think the superintendent has stated a number of times that he would open the school willingly for any group in the community that was looking to do a program in the school. And in fact, not this past Sunday, but the previous Sunday, I was in the elementary school auditorium because the Boy Scouts are in their Eagle Scout badges. So we were in that auditorium. And I think, as far as I know, that they were welcomed by the school department. Again, I don't know because I'm not on the school committee anymore.
I think
but-
that's a special occasion, right? Eagle Scout, that's like a once-a-year event. We want something that's available for the garden club every month, or other clubs that meet monthly, coming in, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, that maybe want to have the den meetings work out great in the Congregational Church. PAC meetings would be excellent to have in the library when it's the whole.
It's St. Mark's too, right? The Boy Scouts, I think, meet over at
The Boy
or the Cub
Scouts meet
Scouts
there.
do.
Cub Scouts meet here.
Cub Scouts there? Actually, I think my daughter was a Girl Scout for a while, so I think we
Right.
were over at St. Mark's
So,
as well.
I don't think the school's as welcoming to outside groups from my experience.
Okay. You'd mentioned that there were, I think, 1,000 households that have used the library at least once
In the past year.
in the past year. Does that include households? Because I think, if I remember correctly, the kiddos in 3rd grade all come up when they visit the town hall and they go through and do the tours. Are those numbers included in that?
If they use their cards, yes.
They use their
They have
cards?
to bring their cards.
You'd mentioned that there was...
Can't open their own card that day.
Oh, they can't?
No.
No.
Okay. I seem to remember my kid coming home with one, but again, that was
That was a
years
long
ago.
time
It was a
ago.
long time ago. Times change, I guess. I know, right?
We
They're in high
compel them to
school,
get a
kids.
card.
Yeah, that's true.
You're in college.
Yeah, I know. It's just so many years ago. 61,000 or so checkouts. How many days approximately per year is the library open?
400 and, I just had this number. A lot. We're only,
Not 400.
all the days, all the days. We're only closed
We're only closed on
Sundays and holidays.
So 6 days a week, that's about
Yeah.
312 or so, then minus holidays, so you're talking about 300.
Yeah.
So you're saying that there are 210 odd checkouts per day?
Yep.
On an average basis? All through this library?
Yep.
What's the total collection?
36,000 about today.
And that's not just, that's not
Oh.
just books.
No, that's
No,
including everything.
We have
books.
telescopes, instruments.
All housed in a little space downstairs?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. In the last area, actually, I have two more questions areas. You'd mentioned that you'd used a standard, the Wisconsin standard, to assess the needs. I really, and I'm sure, I know you had mentioned that it was part of the grant, but speaking from the school side, I have a real problem with using these artificial standards to set square footage. Because I know for a fact that the school square footage for the middle school, high school project was set upon an estimated escalator in population, which didn't even come close to bearing out.
So this
I think
isn't-
it was based upon the trend set by the bubble class, which was the class of 2019, which had about 160-ish odd kids. And since, if I remember correctly, the average in the elementary school is less than 100 or around 100.
Yeah, the kindergarten class this year was probably 85 students.
So we've seen a significant population decline, and now as a result, as I'm sure, there are multiple open spaces in the school building, which have to be heated and maintained.
Right, so this is a little different, right, because general population is a little more predictable than how many children are born in a town in a certain year, right? In general, over the next 20 years, which we were aiming for 2035, is a little more of a straight line than a jagged line like a school population would be, I would think. The moving average trend would probably be more consistent.
Well, I mean, I might be wrong, but I think Massachusetts is one of the few states that's actually losing population, because we have an old, aging population, not many people are coming here, not many job opportunities and so forth.
But it's still different than a school because, you know, you have a school classroom that's designed for middle schoolers. You have a school classroom that's designed for younger children or older children. The library is really designed around a whole population. And the size of each room is not so much population driven on like the small, we have 20 more students this year than last year. It's a much larger scale. We're serving a community of this size. And so we have, you know, this number of seats, this number of items, this number of computers, and these spaces. Now, we also have flexibility built into our design so that, you know, for example, we have a craft room for the children that is also accessible from the young adult, the teen area, so it can be used by both. So if one year we have older kids, if the population shifts older or younger, we can move with that by how we program those spaces.
Well, my biggest concern is, again, we're looking at a structure that's 8 times plus larger than what you currently have. And if we don't see we build it, or if you build it, they come. If we don't actually see that play out, based upon your current use, we're going to have a large building that is underutilized. And at the end of the day, is such an underutilized space of necessarily a priority. Again, considering the fact that we're still paying for the school, we're now going to be paying for the police station. I know there's lots of concerns out there in the public about conditions of roads and so forth. So again, I'm looking at it not necessarily over whether or not we need a library, but rather a library of this size, is it sustainable in the long run, financially?
Obviously, I believe it is, and I wouldn't have, part of my job is making sure that the operating budget is run appropriately as well. So, you know, every time we looked at a library, because we toured about 20, at least, more, I don't know, I would ask the director, how is this working budgetarily for you? And that's why it's designed the way it is, because I wanted to make sure we could maintain our operating budget with our smaller library that we have now. I think it's unfair, actually, to say this 8 times and talk about it being ridiculously oversized when the answer is actually 17,000 is the right size. We're ridiculously undersized. If you think about it that way, I don't think you'll worry about the utilization of the space. We are ridiculously undersized.
That may be true. That may be true.
We're the
Then
second
then-
smallest library for a population our size in the state.
Then maybe it would have been more fitting to go for something that was more appropriate for our community as opposed to some outward standard. You know, maybe we
This
should
is
have
the
shot for
standard
something
that's
that was about
required by the
10,000
state.
square feet or something along those lines.
We're following the moderate level of the standard required by the state. It's not like we went for the top end. We went for the low end.
Okay. Last but not least, donations. You mentioned that people have an opportunity to contribute to the library. What happens if it doesn't pass town meeting? What happens to those funds? Do they revert back to are these pledges? Because you have the donation boards.
Some are pledges, some are donations. Other donations would be retained. It depends. If somebody, others are pledges, and they would then not have to pay the pledge.
So the pledge would be payable contingent upon passage at town meeting?
Correct.
And a vote?
Correct.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any further questions?
I did have a further question. If, on cost-wise, if for any reason, again, not saying that the space isn't needed or you're not definitely undersized right now, and it's debatable whether it's too big or too small, even though it's state standard of this is what's required for this town. If we were to come in lower on cost, would we only get 50% from the grant, or could we continue to keep that cash that we've gotten from the state?
You mean if we say,
If we came in at like 7, let's just say, again, that's not even, there's no logic behind it. I'm just saying, if it were to come in for 7 and there were parts of the library that could be downsized or didn't cost as much, if we were to come in at 7 million, would the state still kick in the 4.7?
you mean after we built it and our
Or would
costs
it
were
only be-
low?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or would it only be the
Is it just
50%?
50% of our number up to that maximum?
I don't know.
I'm not sure how the.
We haven't covered
how
that with
the
them.
Reimbursement,
It's not,
I'm not sure how the reimbursement is structured. I would have to get back to you on that.
Yeah.
That was just, because I'm looking at it saying, okay, if there were a way, because if it's a need and we need it in town and people find, that, and again, this is just coming from a resident and a selectman, but not as the naysay anyway. If we were to find a way to make it where we'll fulfill all our needs instead of, and again, some maybe wants, some maybe, they may be needs, but we can get rid of that need for now or find another way to compromise on that need. And we came in at 7, are we past that stage?
I highly doubt that the state would allow that to
No,
fly.
Yeah.
You
I
highly
don't think that
doubt it,
would
or
be
would?
required.
I highly doubt that the state would, because the
What would
state
would the
gave us a
state-
percentage
so the
based
state-
upon the contingency of
Alright.
the plan that they
So the
proposed.
state would give us 3.5? They'd give us half?
No,
You
that would
can't
have
make
to,
it-
you'd have to
Yeah, you
rebid.
wouldn't be able to make
Make
a
changes.
significant change
So you
like
couldn't
that.
make the change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the easy answer for that is you can't make the changes.
Right.
The state is saying, if you build a library, not Sutton, not the residents, not you as a committee, this is what you need to build.
No, I think the state said this is the proposal that
Yeah.
they sent to them, so
Okay.
this is what we're going to fund.
Yeah.
I think if you
And this-
change anything, that's
So, I mean.
you're out, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and so to your point, if it's ridiculously oversized or undersized or whatever, we built to the standard at the moderate level. If we didn't meet that standard, we would not have gotten a grant. So
That was,
that's where we're at. If we built a 10,000 square foot library, the NBLC would have said, thank you very much for your proposal. We're not funding it. It doesn't meet the standard.
But the space in the long term might have been
what did we,
less to sustain
But
financially.
So we spend $5 million of our own town money on a 10,000 square foot space because the state won't match it, or we build the library we're supposed to have and the state matches half.
I'm just basing my comment on complaints that I heard about the fact that there's empty space in the school. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
No, I'm
We
just
built
trying-
this big building based upon potential need, and the need's not there. And that's the comments that I'm also hearing about the library. So that's all.
Yeah,
That's all
no,
I'm
I'm
saying.
saying, and all I'm saying is, we didn't pull this number out of, thin air. It's based on not just a school population, which is more heterogeneous and changeable from year to year, versus a more solid growth curve that a city or town would have.
I have one last question on that with the growth and the curve. What did we use in a project, let's say like the police station, for our growth, our future growth? Did we look at Massachusetts as declining, or did we look at it?
No,
like
I
how-
don't
Do you know what
actually
standard we
know.
looked at?
I don't think we followed a standard per se, but we did try to build a building that will last 30 years
With growth?
with growth in town.
Okay.
I don't know what?
Use the CMRPC numbers. I assume the Central Mass Regional Planning.
I
that's
can't
what we
confirm,
used.
or I
Yeah.
can't confirm
I would
that.
assume that's probably what you guys would have used too.
Yeah, I can't confirm that.
Do you know, Jesse, from being on the board?
As far as I know, there was never a population that was ever put in consideration. It was based upon needs of the department.
So it wasn't the growth?
No, I don't think,
No, we
we
didn't-
had never
I don't
talked
think we
about
did that.
future growth
Okay.
in town at all whatsoever.
All right. That's all. I just wasn't sure if there was a standard that might
Sure.
have been used.
Yeah, we use the Central Mass Regional Planning something,
Commission, I
CMRPC,
believe.
yeah, which I think is the standard for the area, and that's what we used.
Okay, thank you.
Ray?
Thanks,
Couple
ladies.
quick questions, if I
Yeah.
may. You mentioned the Wisconsin standard. How do you select that? I know it's probably water.
It's actually, it's a nationwide, it's called the Wisconsin Standard. It's something that was, developed by them, but it's
Were
used
there
all
other
over the
standards
place.
that could have been selected, or was this the standard the state put in front of you and said, this is the standard we're using?
This is the
That's
standard
it.
we're using.
Okay, thank you. The library in Millbury, how does that compare to the proposed library here in size? So,
Slightly small, their library's slightly smaller.
is it?
It's like
Yeah.
16?
Yeah, just a little bit.
16,000.
And we currently do as much business as they do, if not more some days, some months, I should
We're
say.
open more days too, but, yeah.
We're open more days, and our circulation numbers are just as high, if not higher.
Good, thank you.
All right, excellent. All right, well, obviously, the burden is upon you guys now, because it's not us that you have to convince. Ultimately, it's the residents in town, and you have to make the presentations in preparation for town meeting. So again, I wish you all the luck, and wish you success, and we'll see what happens when it gets before the voters.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, ladies.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have some new board appointments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually have 4 new board appointments this evening. I invited Andrew DeWolf, who wants to be on the Conservation Commission, because you folks haven't met him yet. All the other appointments are either moving from alternate to full appointments, so those folks you've already met. So is Andrew here? Come on up, Andrew. Andrew currently lives on Horn Drive. You work for the DEP as a federal truck inspector, or how does that work?
I actually own an automotive business, and we do federal inspections.
Okay, have a seat.
Okay, yeah. Have a seat. Why don't you introduce yourself to the viewing
Andrew
audience?
Wolf, 26 Horn Drive. We recently did a lot of work at our home on Horn Drive, so we just went through the process. And I had heard that there was going to be a vacancy, so I put paperwork in to maybe see if we could get on.
Good.
All right, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we open it up for the questions from the board?
Sure. I've been self-employed for about 10 years now. Like I said, we run an automotive business, towing and whatnot. We run a lot of accidents and stuff, so I worked with the DEP in the past on a different side of what the Conservation Commission does here. So we're familiar with some of the regulations on the, the spill side, cleanup, hazmat stuff, remediation. So this, when I pulled my permit, is kind of a different side of it, and it interests me. Getting background is in criminal justice. I went to college for criminal justice, went through a police academy. My son just turned 4. He'll be in the school system next year. That's about it. I grew up in Millbury, right on the Sutton line, West Millbury, and we moved here in 2012.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. John, do you have any questions?
No, we're always looking forward to have volunteers come in on the boards, and when you went through the process on conservation, were you happy with the process?
I think with somebody that had recently gone through it, to kind of hold an applicant's hand a little bit per se, would probably ease the process. I think there might be a few jagged edges that, I believe the board's a great board. I just think it could go a little smoother.
Thank you.
Anything else, John? Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, that was my primary question as well, is how your experience went and in what way you think you can influence that. So I appreciate that answer. And I probably will do this again later. But as John mentioned, having people volunteer for these positions is something that we really appreciate. And some of these things take some time, some of them take a lot of time, and others maybe not as much, but in any case, dedication to that task is always appreciated. So we appreciate your stepping up.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Mike?
Thanks, Andrew, for coming in front of us tonight and, stepping up. Your business, is it in town? Just out of
No,
curiosity?
in Northborough.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good to see, too, kind of to reiterate what was said from the former selectman here before me, was that you seem like you can bring something to the board from your experience.
I hope so.
Which hopefully will be able to make people after you have an experience that was different, whether it's good or bad or whatever it may be, but just bringing something rather than saying, things are great, everything was great, just want to be on that board. So it's good to hear. Thanks and welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome. What do you think the biggest impact you can bring to the table? What is it that you feel that it really gonna make some change or stand up with everyone else? What is it you think you can do?
No, I don't necessarily think that change, I think the right word might be modification. So I've been employed for a long time. Our business has grown, so I've modified my hours to when I had my child, to accommodate my child. And now I have a little bit more time in the afternoon, so I think I could maybe help an applicant out like a day before a meeting and say, go over, look at his project and say, this is what they're going to ask you, this is what we can help you with. Not acting as their engineer, but just, kind of as a board what we would expect. Because I was kind of blindsided by some of the questions and I answered them wrong. And
I'm the new guy on this board. I'm still getting my feet wet and I'm understanding the game too. So,
Right.
But no, welcome and good luck.
thank you.
As my colleague mentioned, thank you for volunteering for this, because again, a lot of these boards, they're not time-consuming per se, but you do invest a lot of yourself into it, and it becomes hopefully your passion. And the fact that you had an experience, negative or positive, might definitely be an eye-opening experience. I have one question for you, though. Have you ever served on any other commissions or any other boards?
No, sir. I've always wanted to be in town government, but I never had the time.
Well, obviously, being a criminal justice major, I'm sure you got, civics classes and all the rest. Yeah, I really don't have anything else to add, other than I wish you all the luck. I know we have watchful eyes here that will take you under your wings, and I'm sure we'll put you in the right frame of mind and bring you up to speed. And with any luck, we'll see you at future Conservation Commission meetings as soon as possible.
Excellent.
All right, I believe we have a motion on the table for this appointment.
Yes.
Actually, should we?
Yeah, why don't we go through all appointments? The others you've met. Daniel Petrelli will be filling a vacant position at the zoning board, left vacant by, what's her name? Stephanie Forsyth. He's currently an associate member of the zoning board. In addition, on the Council on Aging, we want to appoint, or the Council on Aging wants to appoint Genevieve DeHaan and Wally Baker to voting members on the Council on Aging. They're moving from alternate members. And last but not least, is Paul Maynard? Paul Maynard will be appointed as an alternate member of Council on Aging. So Genevieve DeHaan and Wally Baker are moving from alternate to voting members. Paul Maynard will be appointed as an alternate. And obviously, Beverly Gravison and Ross Whittier are leaving the Council on Aging Board.
Thank you.
So all of those appointments in one, I guess.
Yeah, as they're not present, I don't think there's any need to open up any discussion on that. So why don't we go through the motions? And whoever handles Paul's, make sure that you put in there that Paul is being appointed as an alternate to the Council of Aging.
Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint Andrew DeWolf to the Conservation Commission with a term to expire 6/2020, June of 2020. Further move to appoint Daniel Petrelli of the Zoning Board, and move him from an associate member to a voting member with a term to expire in June of 2019. Further motion to move Genevieve DeHaan and Wally Baker from alternate members of the Council on Aging to full voting members with terms to expire June of 2018. And finally, a motion to appoint Paul Maynard as an alternate member of the Council on Aging with a term to expire in June of 2020.
Second.
All right, hearing 4 motions, and I guess we'll say 4 seconds. Any further discussion?
No, I think there was one motion.
Was that one continuous motion?
Further move.
Okay. All right, well, then we have a motion, and then we have a seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of all 4?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, the last item on our agenda is an easement. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This came to me over the weekend from John Arthur from Wireless Edge. As you know, he's currently in the process of constructing a cell tower at Town Farm Road. And he was asked by National Grid to get these easements, utility easements that go across a portion of the town of Sutton land at the beginning of the roadway of Town Farm Road, and additional easements from Wayne Whittier that go further down the road to the cell tower will actually be constructed. So this request came in late, I understand, but it's important to be approved for the project to move forward. And knowing the board's interest in getting this done, I wanted to bring it before the board's attention. So you have it before you tonight. You have a copy of the easement in front of you. You can see on the back page there's a map of the easements and what the National Grid is requesting.
All right, excellent. I think this is pretty straightforward. I don't know if there's any questions or comments, but I might as well open up to my colleagues and see if there is any. John?
No, this is all part of what we've been doing up there, and it's the work lately of our administrator, the Whittiers, and Mr. Arthur, to bring a few of the problems forward, and also to include this easement here. And it's my understanding they're on the last leg of putting in the power sources, and within the next couple of weeks, they'll be putting in the footings for the thing. So we've done a lot of work on this. We're all anxious to see this going, and these people have been great, and they've answered a lot of the questions. The Whittiers are satisfied, and I think it's time for us to accept this easement and move on.
Well said. Thank you, John. Dave?
Hard to argue with what John just said. These are more curiosity questions than anything else. This doesn't change the nature of the work that has to get done. This just sort of grants them the legal right to do the work.
Yes, and my understanding is that these easements are for an electric underground line that will feed the cell tower. And, you know, if we knew in advance that this was a requirement, we would have brought it to you earlier, but unfortunately, we just became aware of it. National Grid wants that easement to be able to do work on that underground electric wire if something happens, if there's a break or something else, but they need the permission to do that.
Yeah, they need the easement. It's as simple as that, as far as I'm concerned, so, thank you. Good.
Mike?
No questions.
Right?
No questions.
Yeah, I don't have any questions either. Again, if this is what is necessary to get that baby up and running, then I am definitely all for it. And again, just based upon the sketch that we have, it looks like it just runs along the edge of the existing easement that was granted for the road access. So if Wayne's all right with this, I see no problem. So how about I entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve the utility easement request from National Grid to lay the necessary wires and cables for the cell tower installation at 154 Town Farm Road, shown as Parcel A in the Worcester County Registry of Deeds in a Plan Book 881, Plan 77.
Second.
Hearing a motion and second. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. All right, last up on the agenda is Town Administrator's Update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few updates for the board. Road repairs. Lynch recently completed some work in town. They paved Uxbridge Road from Central Turnpike to Mendon Road, Old Providence Road, Welsh Road, and 8 Lots Road from Boston Road to West Sutton Road. We had some additional material that we purchased under this contract, so in consultation with Matt Stencil, he agreed to have a certain portion, 1,000 feet approximately, of Boston Road redone, probably the worst part of Boston Road. Now, keep in mind, our longer-term plan is to put sewer in Boston Road from the villas up to the center of town, but we felt like it was important just to address this with a Band-Aid at this point. You know, we may need to dig it up in 2 or 3 years, depending upon the sewer project, but, you know, we felt it was a wise move to make at the time. That's one update. The second one is Lake Singletary treatment. Lake Singletary will be closed due to chemically treated growth and nuisance aquatic vegetation on Thursday, July 27, this coming Thursday. The beach at Marion's Camp and swim lessons are canceled for the day. The beach will reopen the following day, Friday, for regular hours, but it's just keeping everybody off the water for one day, so the chemicals will be able to go down and treat the weeds and so forth. The boiler project at the Early Learning Center, bids are due August 3rd. I think that's next Thursday. And hopefully we get some competitive bids in for that. Goddard Lodge rehab bid opening is tomorrow. I said Thursday. I apologize for that. Bid opening is tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. You know, we opened the filed sub bids last week. A little concerned about some of those bids. Electrical came in higher than expected. Masonry, we actually had one bid at $30,000, one at $113,000. So, you know, it's difficult to determine what's going to happen until we open the general bids, because one of the general bids carried electrical and masonry as part of their bid. And their bids for those two sub-files were $30,000 each. Was painting? So painting might have been part of that as well. So there's a little concern there. So that company would be the one company that could probably bid the project at cost, at what we are putting it out to bid for. Anything over that, you know, we could face a bid protest from some of the other bidders. We might have to throw out all the bids and do some cutting back on the project and go out to bid again. You know, we still have time to do that. But, you know, I don't want to spend $115,000 on a chimney at Goddard Lodge. I just think that's a waste of money. You know, we'll have to pare back that plan if it means eliminating the outside chimney and leaving the inside chimney, maybe eliminating the gas-fired log that was in there, the ambiance of the place, and just scale it back a little bit, not only with the masonry, but also the electrical, et cetera, and the other filed subs. So we'll make that decision when those bids come in tomorrow and evaluate it, and I'll inform the board at the next meeting of our decisions on how we intend to move forward. And the Board of Selectmen goals and objectives is August 8th at 6 p.m. at the golf course.
Very good.
That's all
Thanks,
I have
Jim.
for updates, Mr.
John?
Yes, thank you. In regards to Marion's Camp, the Goddard Lodge, there's a lot of people and a lot of organizations that have put a lot of faith in this project, from town to private citizens to state and federal. And this is the way grants and appropriations should be run, to get a little bit from everybody. And I think with $400 and something thousand, me personally, the way I feel is we really have to look at these bids. We're not going to spend $100 and something thousand to redo a beehive chimney that's been there for all those years, because actually it's going to be not going to be a flame in there anyways. And you know, maybe the best thing right now is let's see what happens. Don't act anxiously, but we might take that whole chimney right out and board it right up and reserve some of that money to finish some of the painting and some of those other things. It's not going to be a Taj Mahal, but it's going to be a place for people to gather and to preserve pretty much what we had in making sure that the electricity and some money into the porta potties or some of that sanitation work that's going to be done. So I do anxiously want to look at all of that. The second thing, Jim, I've taken a ride around Lake Singletary, and I've noticed all the notifications, orange notifications throughout all the roads and over at the boat ramp and everything, keeping in mind that Sutton owns approximately 80% of Lake Singletary and 20% in Millbury, and the boat ramp is over there at Millbury. And we put a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it's an expense. But I'm grateful for what this town has done to put the money towards weed control, because in the long run, it keeps our lake pristine. It keeps Marion's camp weed-free for the programs that are there, and for all the residents along Lake Singletary. In fact, it upgrades all of the values for all of their property if you have a nice lake and pristine waters, and the waters are tested all the time.
Yeah.
But what I'm conscious about, and it come to light, I want to thank DCR. They're in control of the boat ramp over there, and this is the first year now that they put a sign up there, no boat launching on Thursday. And hopefully the residents of Sutton and Millbury are educated not to go boat riding on Thursday. Leave one day alone. This treatment that they do, they go out and they drop pellets into the weed areas, and it has to go down and it has to settle, and that'll be the start of treating everything. But if they have any type of turbulence and things like that, $5,000 is wasted. So I hope people really do pay attention, stay off the lake, do it for the lake's sake. And I think it's going to be a better place for all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to talk briefly about paving. Jesse mentioned earlier in this meeting on a different topic some of the concerns you hear around town about paving, and you do hear a lot of concerns about paving. And so I just want to make a plea on behalf of Matt Stencil. There's not enough money for paving is the bottom line. And so there is a program, it uses some software, and there's a lot of time spent determining where best to spend the money that we do have on paving. And, if you live on Hartness Road and it doesn't get paved this year, your time will come. And he's working it the best you can, and it's likely that if the road that you travel on feels like it needs paving, but it's not getting paved, well, the roads that are getting paved also need that treatment. So, he's working as hard as he can. He's making his funds go as far as they can, and working with a short budget is difficult. So, appreciate what he's doing.
Yeah, we receive a little over $400,000 in Chapter 90 money every year,
Yep.
and every penny of it's spent on roads at this point. And it's a financial issue. We just don't have the $1 million that we need to do, or over $1 million to do Central Turnpike, Hartness, Dudley Road, all of these roads that everybody's complaining about. Well, if I can hold the money and not spend a penny of it for 3 years, then I'd have enough money to do one road.
Yeah.
So it's just a cost-benefit analysis. It's a challenge.
It is a challenge. And, my perspective is that if you drive to Millbury or Grafton or any town around, or you could drive to Boston, anywhere you drive in the state, you got the same problem. That's how it is. We get most of our money to pave from the state. The state gets most of its money from the federal government, I believe. Mm. And, we live in an environment where there's not enough money for this stuff. So, give Matt a break. He's working hard. John, I wanted to talk about the Lake Singletary thing as well. I completely concur with your comments about how important it is and how much effort and money we've expended over the years to keep the lake in the condition that it's in. And so I suspect the residents themselves will be, happy to deal with the situation for a day. I appreciate the notifications that are out. And, it's a shame, perhaps, that it has to happen on a day in the middle of the summer, but for a day, that's the price you pay to keep it in the shape that it's in. So, and on Goddard Lodge, I guess, my comments there would be, first of all, that we're looking at these bids and making sort of tough decisions when they come in around what work needs to get done and what work perhaps can't get done. It's good that we're looking at those things, so I appreciate the value that we're getting for the money that we do have to apply to it. And if I can offer anything, it's only that if we have to make changes, can we look at changes in a way that might preserve the opportunity to do some things in the future if we could get further funds in the future? I don't know how doable that is, but if that's a thought that you can keep in the back of your mind as you evaluate those things, maybe.
That's a very good
could be
point.
helpful.
I actually had a conversation with John Kuchar on this project this morning, and he was saying, if the bids come in high, we can, the design calls for these wall sconces and elaborate lighting systems within the building. Well, that may be a little over the top. We can eliminate the sconces and we can just add typical lighting that we would have for a facility like that. And then eventually, over time, if we want to add the wall sconces for ambiance and character, then we can do that eventually. But we need to get the building repaired and renovated and up and running.
Yeah, agreed.
Good point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent, thank you. Mike?
Most of the questions have been hit that I had, or comments. I did have one, since I'm on it now, with Goddard Lodge. Could we do the same thing with the chimney there, or is that something that is a hazard? Without having to remove it all, but maybe down the road with future funds we could repair?
That's the one area that's tricky.
Yeah.
Because it does, the chimney actually has an inside and an outside. So if you don't, you've got to address the enclosure around the chimney. And I think what we need to do is make a decision whether we want to eliminate one side or both sides. My guess is we're looking at one side of the chimney, probably the outside chimney. Our thoughts, again, with, John Kuchar is a great project manager on this project. I'd be helpless without him. But he thought about, what if we moved the fire pit to what will be the patio in front of Goddard Lodge? So ultimately, we could have an outside fire, just would be part of the fire pit that would be moved closer. A lot of that work can be done by Matt Stencil in the Highway Department, and then it'll eliminate the need for an outside fire attached to Goddard Lodge.
Okay.
So we are trying to think outside the box with that to limit the cost.
With Lake Singletary, there's always Manchug. There's a boat ramp that people can use and boat for the day on Thursday.
Right.
So if they still have plans to boat, head over to Manchug.
Yeah.
Enjoy the day over there. But it is only one day a year that really, like Selectman Hebert had mentioned, to have the tablets settle in and to kill away at the weeds rather than be stirred up. It makes the difference from what I've seen. And that's not much, but it's enough to go on that assumption. The roads that were done, to kind of echo in on Selectman Hall, it's a start. It's $400,000. It's not a whole lot of money to do as many roads that need to be done. But rather than waiting and then being able to do one road, taking them one by one, and again, if you feel like your road is very bad, and Matt Stencil takes a look at all the different roads, and it's not that these other roads were chosen because of they were whatever reason. It's because they needed to be done just as bad, if not worse. So,
not only Matt, but an outside company actually that we hire comes in and does an update to our pavement management plan every year. So, that company looks at it from an independent eye. Rather than somebody that gets constant phone calls from the public, do this road, but, an independent eye that takes a look at the condition of the roads. So we I feel comfortable with that process.
Excellent, thank you, and that would be it. Thank you.
Ray?
In regards to the weed project, I'm a kayaker. I enjoy going around Lake Singletary and enjoying how crystal clear that water is. So one day off for a boater or swimmer to control, get the controls in place. I think the people that live on the lake understand, and they'll be able to deal with one day off. In regards to the Goddard Lodge bid, it sounds like you're looking at several alternatives, and it's not concrete to say. Right. It looks like Mr. Kuchar and yourself and many others are looking at alternatives to try to spread the money as far as you can.
Right.
So, and which is very much appreciated, I'm sure, by many people. The cost to repave our roads. I saw a recent, I don't know if it was a Facebook post or something, a comment, $1 million a mile. What is the cost on average?
Well, I'd have to look at that. I don't have a standard.
Yeah.
It used to be every inch was a certain amount of dollars that we spent on overtime for snow and ice removal. But those standards are, I've been in the field a long time.
Yeah.
So I'll get you a current standard that, Matt Stencil, when he measures a road and it's so many linear feet.
Be different. Right?
And then we'll, be able to give you a standard of doing an overlay, for instance. But, the bad roads, Central Turnpike, Dudley, Hartness, and other roads that have been mentioned, is probably, I think in the pavement management plan, the cost to do them are well over $1 million. And that would be holding our Chapter 90 funds for 3 years. And then we do that road. And then we hold it for another 3 years, and we do it. So in 10 years, you'd get 3 roads done. Mm-hmm. And all the other roads would fall apart. So it's just having to balance it all out.
Yeah, just so we can give perspective to the folks in town, I don't know if there's a real good understanding of the cost. It's not just the cost of the paving. They have to set the road. They have to prepare the substrate, make sure it's all set. And they might have to do some scarifying. There's so many different things. And
You're right.
Then you have a police officer at each end. There's a lot of costs that are built into this that I don't think people really understand.
And there's, as you mentioned, I think you did a good job. There's a typical overlay, which is an easy part. The difficult part is you do full-depth reconstruction of a road, which is a much more expensive project, but roads like Dudley and those roads probably need some of those treatments. So,
yeah, Central Turnpike, for one, there's an area down there that the top coat is peeled away, but you're getting some sag. It's going to come down to where it's going to need some construction.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have to scarify it, probably going to have to reset the bed.
Yeah.
So there's some cost involved in that.
Yeah.
That's
Point
all
well
I had.
taken.
But thank you. Thank you.
Well, if I could, again, I don't know the exact footage of all the projects that were done, but we were talking about it. It's close to a mile.
Yeah,
So you got to figure, just for paving, which was done, we paid over $400,000 for just under a mile.
Mm-hmm.
So
let me just get back to you on the amount we spent. I know Matt wanted to keep a little in reserve to do some extra treatment on some of these roads that isn't paving. So let me get you an actual figure.
A whole bunch of techniques that he uses, too.
They do.
So just because your road didn't get resurfaced, that doesn't mean the highway guys aren't going to be out there maybe crack filling or
Right.
chip sealing. I know there's a whole bunch of techniques
crack
that he
sealing,
uses, all with different costs associated with them. All right, I'll be honest with you, I don't really have much to say. I think everything was covered. I just would like to confirm that the $5,000 that John mentioned, that's the treatment funds that are passed annually at the Fall Town Meeting as an article, correct?
It's actually passed at Springtown meeting.
Springtown meeting?
And it's part of the recreation budget. The town gives $5,000 to Lake Singletary and $2,500 to Manchog Pond.
Okay, isn't there something that the Lake Singletary Association does put forward on a fall?
No, I
to
worked
be?
with,
Okay.
is it Paul Koala some years ago to make it a standard appropriation, because they used to come before town meeting and file a citizen's petition to look for some boat excise money.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
And
yeah.
that was every 2 or 3 years they'd come before us. And rather than be haphazard, I just put it in the budget and they get it every year.
I think it's perfect. If after all, 80% of the residents are Sutton residents, then
Yeah.
we might as well put the effort in, and hopefully Millbury gives us a hand, keep some of those boaters out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, to interrupt, but I also want to thank David Marciello from Millbury, because he was very instrumental in getting that sign up at the boat ramp over in Millbury. So, he stopped everything and kind of got organized and got going on that. So I appreciate all his effort on that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, announcements, roundtable, correspondence? None? Dave?
All set, thank you.
Mike?
Nope.
Ray?
Sorry.
All set? No?
I just have two.
I'm sorry, I did have one. I apologize.
All right, what do you have?
Just with, where are we standing? Any word on the hiring for the 3 offices?
No, we have more interviews to have.
Do we?
Yep.
Because I thought I heard something about there's a 4th now that's possibly going to.
Potentially.
So I didn't know if we have anything, if there's.
We're doing everything we can. The problem is a lot of departments are hiring patrolmen at this point in time. There are a couple academies going on right now, and those graduates will be available shortly. The one thing we want to do is make sure we hire the right officer, the right fit for the town.
Right.
We don't want to hire somebody just because they're available.
Yeah.
So I sat in some final interviews a week ago, and I wasn't all that impressed with some of the finalists. And as the hiring person for that job, I'm not going to recommend them to the Board of Selectmen unless I feel confident in their ability. So, I think we'll have one position filled shortly, but the other positions will take some time. We'll have to go out again and go through another hiring advertising process to get officers.
What do you think? Do you think it's just the amount of towns that are hiring at this time?
Yeah. I mean, certainly. I know Millville, Marlborough, Littleton, all towns. They're all hiring patrolmen at this point in time, and there's, right now there's a dip, but there's 2 academy classes that are ongoing that will have graduates soon, and those individuals will be candidates for these positions.
Okay.
But I think we have a high standard when we hire patrolmen, and we don't want to just hire anybody because they went through the academy, they can shoot a gun, and I just don't. I want to hire the right person.
That's the concerns that I've been hearing, is that who are we going to bring in, to replace, if we lost 3 veteran officers and lost 1 to an injury, when was it posted? What's taken so long?
Yeah.
That's more than a shift down right now for police officers.
Oh, yeah.
The overtime that I don't know if we're paying overtime.
Oh, yeah. No, listen, there's a cost to it. I mean, when, somebody goes out, for a month on vacation, or 3 weeks on vacation for another officer, it's difficult to fill those shifts. I can't force them in, because that's their time. They have the right to take it. But it is a cost, and ultimately it'll be a cost for us to take care of at fall town meeting or spring town meeting.
Yeah.
But, the fact is the department's running well, and the chief is managing, even with the diminished staff. We have the benefit of, we don't need an SRO at this point in time, so that individual is now on the street as an officer.
Mm-hmm.
The detective has been removed from the detective role right now and is now a patrolman. We did that some years ago where we took Officer Green out of the detective role and put him back on the street because we had a shortage of staff, standard operating procedure. So we're not hurting that bad, but it is an impact on the budget.
I have confidence in the chief and the department, and I'm sure they'll be their best.
Do we have a plan for an SRO that you brought that up? Do you know if they have a?
Yeah, we will be hiring an SRO within the current staff.
Right.
I just wanted to, just an announcement. I had the opportunity to meet Officer Jakes recently at my home after an event that occurred on my street. And, you know, what I had a Facebook post out there that got a lot of popularity. I didn't expect that, but the point I was trying to make was Officer Jakes was a gentleman, but it went beyond that. He understood. He didn't know my daughter, but he understood. So somebody must have told him, but he understood what the swing meant to her, and he went out of his way to make an offer to replace the swing, and it meant the world to me. We didn't allow him to do that, but we took care of that. And I just wanted to say thank you to the Sutton Police, because I having a very long time ago, a brief stint with the police department under Chief Hebert, I know what goes on back there, and the work and the care. It's not just guys with badges and guns. It's guys that really want, guys and ladies that really want to do a good job and help others. And that was demonstrated the other day. And as recently as yesterday, I had an event at my home where I had Sutton Fire and Sutton Police at my home to help me. And again, it was just an amazing experience. Not so much for me, but to see them there. But we have a great town, and our EMS folks, they're good people, and they go out of their way to make sure they help others.
Excellent. Well said, Ray. Thank you. All right, my two quick announcements. I went to Waters Farm Italian dinner. It was well attended. In fact, it was overflow. The entire barn was filled, and almost all the tables outside were filled. So thank you to everyone at Waters Farm for putting on a spectacular event, and thank you for everyone who attended. And the last update I have is I heard from Diane down at the Senior Center regards of needs for the food pantry. This week, they're looking for rice pilaf, rice-a-roni, Spam, I suppose you could do ham or chicken, canned potatoes, syrup. If you're going to get syrup, maple syrup and such like that, please look for the low sugar or low calorie options. They're also looking for hand soap and dish detergent. All right, I think we made it through another wonderful meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You guys don't want to leave.
Passes 5-0.